Shane Sims, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. As we were just talking backstage, I had a early morning flight down here to Florida. Part to get away from all of the bad air quality that we're getting up in Maryland with the fires coming from Canada, but then part I've got a couple of reasons to be down here next couple of days, a couple of events. But you're just north of me. I guess I flew by you this morning. You're just up in the Jacksonville area.
Yeah, I've lived here for about a little over a year now, and I was actually at a board meeting in Denver last week and got off the plane and experienced, the skies had a tint of orange, right, from the Canadian wildfires, and now they're coming east. It's amazing, really, how far it extends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's 400 fires going on or something like that.
Right.
So it's kind of good to get out of the bad air quality. And actually, Denver's my next stop next week. Doing this big circuit tour of the U.S. But anyway, not about me. This is about you and all the great things that you're doing. You have one hell of a cool background. I think from early days and college athletics, and then what you're doing just out of college and your background in cyber. So if you're cool, I'd love to hear kind of where you're from and how you got into tech and kind of start there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very small town in Ohio, outside of Cincinnati, and as you mentioned, played sports. Sports influenced my life a lot, and the way I go about running businesses as well. I went to a public school in Ohio and played 3 different sports, and that gave me opportunities to play sports in college. Was recruited by many colleges and universities for both track and cross country as well as basketball. But I wanted to combine playing basketball in college with pursuing a degree in computer science. And there weren't a lot of, I'm an older guy here, so there weren't a lot of computer science degree programs at that time. So I chose a small school in Indiana where I could do both of those things. So that was really how things got started for me.
Awesome. Very cool. And so from there, I guess, what was the impetus? I mean, you've done quite a bit in the whole cyber, just general tech space, but was there I don't know, a spark early on? Was there an influence that has you lean into technology, or was it just kind of a matriculation as you graduated and entered the workforce?
Well, when I graduated, the first 2 jobs I had, it became obvious to me that I was not suited for like 9 to 5 jobs. And so I decided at 24 to start my own company. I don't know what 24-year-old really has any level of business acumen to do such, but sometimes being naive is a good thing, right? You're just sort of free to do what you want and you're not too concerned. So it was a company focused on security services, but at that time, the word cyber had not even been coined.
Right.
So security back then looked like access management, network monitoring, and data encryption.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really my first foray into like the use of technology to help companies secure their business. Did that I was the CEO of that company for 9 years, and then had the opportunity to join the FBI as a special agent. And when I joined, about a year and a half later, cybercrime started. And because of my previous background, I was assigned to a cyber squad. So I feel fortunate because I've seen it from its infancy to where it is now and that entire evolution over time. Feel very fortunate about that. I could share some stories. Happy to do that from those days. Some true
Maybe, yeah. I
crime.
mean, indulge me. I guess. What's the most memorable? Maybe not the most salacious, but what's one either you're the most proud of, or one that just stands out as like, just impressionable.
Yeah, I mean, in the cybercrime world, I mean, I had the opportunity to work a lot of different things, from obviously 911, responding to that, counterterrorism, counterintelligence, but in the cybercrime space, probably the most memorable thing in my career was I started the first cyber undercover operation that was face to face. So I did thousands of online undercover operations. On this one, I actually went undercover, infiltrated a hacker group, became part of the group. I wore a wire all the time. I was recording all the conversations. And a year later, I actually got arrested, right, by my own colleagues, along with the bad guys. Of course, mine was fake, but they didn't know that. But that was an interesting experience. And when you couple that with later, I went back to Quantico and founded the first generation of the FBI's offensive unit, and learned a lot from being on the inside with the hackers and then being a government hacker, right? We got paid to actually, under certain court authorities, to gain access to bad guy systems and monitor what they were doing, conduct electronic search warrants. So I learned a lot. And at the end of all that, I can say this: cybercrime is never going to stop. No one's going to stop cybercrime. As long as there's an internet, there'll be cybercrime. And really today, it's just about, how can you get more resilient and reduce the business impact when it comes knocking, because it will.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You had kind of that catbird seat, bird's eye view of cybersecurity, and kind of you're right at the emergence of the criminal underground, and probably even when you started, Tor wasn't necessarily understood or a thing, or even popularized. And so, I assume, to your point, right? It's if there's an internet, there's a will, there's a way, there's a profit to be made. There's always going to be people trying to seek out, that profit, through whatever means. What have you seen, or how have you seen it evolve? Is it the level of sophistication is increasing, therefore there's more compromise and more to be had, or is it, often hear about, just leaving the front door and the back door open, and it's, there's so much of this that's preventable. But what do you see has evolved in the whole security landscape?
Yeah, there's if you look at the last 20, 25 years, at a basic level, not much has changed. The way the bad guys operate really hasn't changed. It's just accelerated. Somewhere around 2008, there was an upward trend in cybercrime, and then it just went vertical. It's still vertical today. It's just the velocity of it is off the charts, right? We've left the atmosphere at this point, and we're at terminal velocity in terms of cybercrime. Don't see that ever stopping. And with the global talent shortage, I don't, in my career, we're never going to be caught up, right? We're never going to have enough cybersecurity talent to actually manage the cyber risk that's going to be out there for a long time. So I think, it's really important that companies like ours stay sharp, stay relevant, because there's going to be many companies out there that will never be able to afford to build security to a level they need internally. They're always going to have to partner with people. So that's really the focus of our company at KIVU.
Yeah, absolutely. There was some big news made in the industry today, with I think one of your contemporaries, gentleman you're connected with, Mr. Murchison of Blackpoint Cyber. They just announced, I forget the exact dollar amount, but it's close to a $200 million investment by Bain in their organization, and it's kind of a testament to just the need, right? I mean, just the opportunity, from a business standpoint to do good and help protect people, but the need, I think, is what that investment shows. And you guys are clearly in this space and solving a lot of these problems. And I think one of the things that I didn't realize is how many customers you guys support. And so let's kind of get into KIVU and what was the backstory of KIVU and how that gets started, and where do you guys focus?
Yeah, so it's I've known John Murchison for a few years. He's a rock star, a superstar, and it's a really smart investment by Bain. What John's doing there and the software he's developed is really unbelievable. KIVU was established in 2009. Two co-founders, they were former UN employees. They were working in Africa. One of their favorite vacation spots was Lake Kivu, hence the name.
Got it.
I get that question a lot, like, where, what's it stand for? Why KIVU? What's it mean? It's pretty simple. KIVU predominantly for many, many years focused on incident response. So companies get attacked, they have to hire somebody to come in and investigate that, do all the digital forensics and clean that up and help them be more resilient and reduce the risk of it happening in the future. We still do that today. That's the bulk of our business. We're battlefield operators. So, we get paid to walk onto the cyber battlefields of our clients. We choose the weapons that we think are germane to that battle in that moment and bring those to the battlefield. And that's really the way I look at this, because this has been going on for decades, right? So it's not technically classified global cyber war, but to me it is. And every organization's IT infrastructure, to me, is a battlefield. And you have to take that mindset on how you're going to protect, the citizens, the employees, the devices, the systems, the data. And you got to bring the right soldiers with the right weapons. So that's the bulk of what we do today. Over time, working with clients in that capacity, we've also developed a managed security service. So we don't want to be transactional with our clients. We want to leave them with something that improves their security posture. So we monitor their systems, devices, data. We can detect threats in real time and block them. So that's an emerging business for us. We also do proactive services. So we try to get left of boom, as they say, with clients, help them do more strategic activities around security, whether it's penetration testing or tabletop exercises, vulnerability assessments, compliance assessments against regulatory standards and regulations. So started out as a forensics company, but it's evolved into a full suite of cybersecurity services.
I just imagine, starting in forensics and dealing, coming in and understanding and reverse engineering, how they got in and seeing, the different, myriad of ways that this stuff proliferates and compromises and extracts. I have to imagine that kind of give you guys a leg up as you were building out the proactive services, right? Because a lot of companies come in and, maybe they have, just, experience in different capacities, and then they'll take a SIM, for example, and they'll kind of build on top of that, create, a lot of alerting and what have you, and then try to pivot into a whole managed security offering. I imagine, starting as operators and starting as the ones that go in and look and, figure out, study how these things, go down, and then building something that's more of a, proactive solution. I imagine that gives you guys a leg up in how you've gone to market.
It does. I mean, it's certainly beneficial, right? It improves our speed when we're hired. We've got 14 years now of data, right? Data from our forensics work, data from our monitoring work, data from our advisory work when we do penetration tests and vulnerability assessments. And when you coalesce all that together, it turns into threat intelligence. So everything we do, from proactive to reactive to monitoring, is all powered by proprietary KIVU threat intelligence.
Yeah, you guys have, I think when I last read, several thousand customers that you guys have supported over the years. And so I imagine kind of the data, I don't want to call it a data lake, but at least the insights that you guys are able to pull from sounds like it's pretty vast.
It is. And we've served clients, and we still do today. Just in the last 24 hours, every morning when I wake up, like, the first thing I do is check my email. And it's amazing how many opportunities come in while I'm asleep here in Eastern time zone. So we've got people based in the UK and all across the US, but our clients are global. Just to give you an example, this week we've spun up new investigations in Australia, the UK, many in the US, and other parts of the world. So we need that global coverage from a time span perspective. A lot of our clients over the years historically have been what I'd call middle market SMBs, but we do have some very, very large brands that are household names as clients as well. And in the last, I'd say, year and a half, that set of clients is starting to increase.
That's great. So, I think another thing that I'm seeing, at least I'm seeing, I'm sure you're seeing as well, is that there's well, I'm take a step back. I often talk about this on the podcast about this concept of this maturity curve, particularly in kind of the MSP space, and kind of get mid-market down into MSP and their customers. And for years it was, all right, I have to buy this point solution, buy this point solution, buy this point solution, and over the last couple of years, there's been a real push, to create platforms, create kind of a platform or of capabilities, and you're seeing solutions repackaged in a different way. Pen testing is kind of one of them. Back in the day, it was more of like a network assessment. It wasn't really discussed as proactive penetration testing and kind of it was just more of an assessment type of kind of a marketplace. But how does that relate to what you guys are building and kind of the scope of capabilities that you guys bring to the table?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the advantage we have is that any client, big or small, if they're concerned about a certain cyber threat or group of threats, we know what controls matter because of the work we've done. I mean, you can pick any standard or regulation or legislation, and you can find security controls that range from dozens to 100 or 100 plus controls. But there's many companies they'll just never be able to afford implementing, dozens to 100 controls. So that's our advantage. We know what works. If you stick to, these 3 controls or these 6 controls or this one control, right? How does that impact certain threats, and what threats are really relevant to your business, your industry and sector and your geography from a business perspective? So we can make it really, really simple. Simplify the complex is what we're trying to do. Be viewed as the easy button here, because it can be easier than the media and other organizations make it out to be.
Yeah, at some point it has to be easier because, again, going along that concept of the maturity curve, you'd argue maybe 15% of the MSSP marketplace really understands it and it's operationalized and they're on top of it. But still, there's still 85% of the marketplace that is in that maturing category. And it's just, on one hand, it's great because every day there's new MSPs, new companies starting to emerge, and there's this whole rise of hybrid IT, what have you. But there's that maturity curve, and I think the most successful companies in this space, the channel specifically, the ones that can make it easy, but also kind of educate and empower the partners, downstream, or actually empower them as they're trying to go sell to their customers. So with that as kind of some context, I mean, what do you see as kind of the most pressing issues facing MSPs or MSSPs these days? Is it the ability or inability to articulate value proposition? Is it the complexity of security? I mean, what do you see is one of the main challenges?
Yeah, so we have many IT MSPs as channel partners. So we develop deals where they can leverage KIVU to take security out to their clients, and it's mutually beneficial from a business perspective. The biggest challenge for MSPs today, whether they're aware of this or not, is that they are a prime target of cyber attacks. Right? It's one pathway to many organizations.
Sure.
So both securing the MSP is like priority 1 today. If we're going to really fight cybercrime and protect humanity, which is our mission, we have to protect these MSPs because they have access to all kinds. I mean, we see it every day in the news, these third-party supply chain attacks, and it works, right? You don't have to get into 1,000 organizations. You get into one, and you've got the doorway that you need. So that's the biggest challenge we see. But also from a business perspective, just making it profitable, right? How does the MSP deliver security to their client base in a way that meets their profitability goals?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that it's almost like the shoemaker shoes in some cases, and in some cases it's just a general, lack of internal maturity at the organization. And I agree, that is a prime prime challenge, prime threat vector for sure. And yeah, so definitely have to guard against that one to many. And then to your point, right? Same thing. The profitability side. It's stuff moves fast. It's complex. And you hear a lot of the MSPs that they may have done a great job, tier 1, tier 2, kind of, and then they're merging into security. But do they really want to take on the burden of trying to hire, in this market, right, where resources and talent is limited? Is that the right way for most of the groups or MSPs to go, when you have groups like you that are leverageable, that have the expertise and get spun up? And I imagine that the time to market and the time to having impact is nominal compared to going it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, the CEOs of the MSPs, if they want to get into this space, they're always working through the debate of, do we build, buy, or partner? And there's no wrong answer, but time to market certainly one. If they want to go now, partnership routes obviously the way to go. But building is hard. Back to the talent problem. Like, if you're a small, mid-sized MSP, how do you find the talent? How do you retain the talent and keep them compensated in line with what the market's demanding, which is becoming really interesting these days. So it's hard, right? So that's one reason why, about a year ago, I made a commitment to those middle market MSPs that if they want to do security and they want to do it well and they want it powered by 14 years of threat intel, we're a really good option for them. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. You guys, your background is impressive is an understatement. Where you guys focus is absolutely, solving a tremendous need in the industry. What's the best way to get a hold of you or KIVU, anyone at the company? They're, looking for partnership.
Yeah, so KIVUconsulting.com is the easiest way. There's a hotline number there you can call. Also, just to plug a white paper we published in conjunction with the University of Cambridge in London last year. We were talking about security controls earlier and which ones really matter and how do small and mid-sized companies figure out that quagmire. That paper really breaks down the controls that matter as relates to ransomware, and then it applies a cost savings to the control, which I don't think's ever been done in our industry, to be able to quantify that. So yeah, KIVUconsulting.com.
Yeah, that's great. We'll have to check that out. We'll get the link and we'll share that, because I think most people are still using the Ponemon statistics from 7, 8 years ago, or what have you. I think they've been updated, but I still see that same number out there. Cost per endpoint per breach, right, or something like that, yeah, or per record. I think that's what they went to market with. But yeah, we'll definitely share that, because that sounds like an invaluable tool. That's fantastic. Look, I really appreciate you making time to hop on here, and we'll add some of the stuff to the show notes, make sure we get the word out, and hopefully we see you at an event here in the coming months. And yeah, appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, enjoyed it, Kevin. Enjoy your time in South Florida.
All right, you got it, bud.
See ya.